Hello, welcome back to Ben Sushi Live Noding. In this episode, I'm gonna try to give another look at CSV using SphereChalk add-on. But before we jump into the CSV and how we can easily visualize it in Blender using SphereChalk, I wanna show you this one first. So I sourced my CSV data files example from this website, people.scfcu.edu. So this has a bunch of CSV example. They are rather kind of simple CSV, but actually quite nice that you can easily download the sample files and you can easily look at it, look at the CSV data, which is a comma separated value, and then you can perhaps kind of study it and see how the data is being converted into like a tabular data or comma separated value. And so on the left here, I actually have something called JupyterLab. JupyterLab is kind of new, the evolution of Jupyter Notebook or IPython. And I think this is really, really neat. And this can be something that's much more useful in the future. Imagine if you can use JupyterLab with Blender together, it's going to be really powerful. Here you can see with JupyterLab, I can kind of see the data instead of in a comma separated value data like this. It's tidily created this tabular data for you. I'm using the data that's actually called HW200.csv. I think this has a like height and weight of students. It's in inches and pounds, but I will try to convert it into centimeters and kilogram in Blender. So yeah, this is the data, right? If we are kind of want to visualize the data using Python, one way to do it here is I'm actually simply by using this Python code. I think I sourced it from somewhere. And with the Python codes, if you have snippet of Python codes like this, of course it's gonna be slightly easier. I can kind of imagine like a functions or module, whatever is kind of like a node in a node environment. So if we have these custom functions to get the data, it's gonna open the path and it's gonna read the data and read line by line and appending the data and gonna return a list of data that's being transported into NumPy. It sounds really complicated, right? But yeah, this is once you learn programming, this is gonna be a lot easier. It actually makes sense. It's almost like a notes. You're making notes on the fly. That's how I imagine it. And you source here. I'm giving the data path, and then here this is where the data is actually gets sourced. So you get the header and the data being separated. So this is the header, which is the index, the height, the weight, and the data looks something like this. It's just the number, floating numbers, and integer. And then if you want to get the index data, you can do it this way. And if you want to see the graph or visualize it, you are using plotting, matplotlib, pyplot. This is how the data scientists actually doing it, I think. So JupyterLab is really, really powerful. I think it's very interesting frameworks. You can easily look at files, and then I think it's really, really nice the way they do it. And you can also interact with the data. If I change any data here, it can update the graph. So let's look at the alternative and look at how we can do this in Blender using SphereChalk add-on. And sometimes I often take notes for granted. Notes has made everything so easy, and sometimes I don't even think about that because I don't know. I think there is something about notes, something about code as well. So this is Blender. This is a CSV reader reloaded. So with the nodes environment in SphereChalk, we know that there is a text in. So text in node will load CSV or SphereChalk or JSON, but JSON in a certain structure. CSV is CSV, so it's simple. We should look at this and it's pretty intuitive. So let's drag and drop our CSV file if we can. So HW200, right? CSV, drop it. Can we just drop it into this guy? No, cannot. So just source it from here. I think I put it in my folder, HW CSV. So import it. By doing that in nodes in Spreadchalk, it will load the CSV in here. Okay, so we can see that's the header and there's all the data. This is the index number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then this is the height and this is the weight. Okay, so if we just load it, we're gonna get this column 0, 1, 2. Let's see if this is working right away. Let's check it out using stethoscope. And indeed, seems to be working and giving you back a list that Spreadchalk can read. Sometimes you might want to enable force input. Sometimes let's reset this guy, and I think with this guy we can turn on the header. So turn on the header fields and then load it. So now we have this nice index and height and weight, and we can use that as well. So let's try to visualize this guy using Spreadchalk. So this is of course a floating value, right? We can imagine that as a floating value. So we can use this guy as X value, and this is why this is as a Y value. That should be pretty easy. Just use vector in. So the height can be the X, the weight can be the Y, and then we just right click and connect it to viewer draw, and we should have a bunch of points, see up there. So because the value is quite large, so we might want to make it smaller, so we're gonna just multiply it here by 0.1. So now it's much smaller, or maybe 0.01. Oh, too small. Okay, just something like that. You can always scale it. And the currently the height is in inches, weight in pounds, but we can try to visualize it a bit nicer using viewer index, I think. So if we plug this into that guy and plug the height into the text, for example, we can see. So some students have a maximum weight of 65. Oh, that's the height, 65 inches, and the lowest would be down there, I believe. Oh, actually it's all 65. Maybe I did wrong. I need to split the data. So now this is correct. 63, 65, I think 69. So that's for the weight, right? 69. Some students have weight of 69. So that's the lowest and the highest, and then this is how tall. But for me, I think it's easier to read height and weight using centimeter and kilogram. So I'll try to convert it real quick. So height inches to inches in centimeter, 2.54. Okay. .54. So this is inches, and I just gonna convert it into centimeters. And for the height, for the weight, pound to in kilogram, 0.45. Plug this into the Y. So now we can see this is the value for the weight or the height. Let
Here's
me
what
check.
I found on the web for the value.
Whoops. Okay, I triggered Siri just now. 64. Let me check. 63 and maximum 73 because I plug in that data. Let's try the weight. The weight in pounds. Okay, I need to use this one, of course, the converted data. And the converted data seems to have a lot of trailing decimal. So I might want to use another math functions, just round it into 0.1. I mean, only one digit at the end. So anyhow, so we can see. So this is the height, I think the height of the students. Some students are really tall, 187 centimeters. Some students are much shorter, 161. Okay. Now let's check the other data. So some students have the weight of 44, some have weight of 71.6, and you can see it's so easy to visualize that. And then you can also use the index. Let's see, just plug the index into this guy so you can see. Is that the index? Index should go to the text, and then you can actually see the student that's with the heaviest weight and the tallest one is being shown here. Yeah, but just I think that's just a quick look on the CSV text in, and just for you to know that we can do this pretty easily. And if you ever want to use text out, there is text out as well, and you can use CSV. But sometimes I think with the text out we are getting string, so just keep that in mind. So let's call this CSV out to test this output. So I will try the one that's being converted. So plug that in. Maybe I want to have the index as well, and then have the height in centimeter, and then the weight in kilogram. Dump it. So now we have this new data. The new data seems to have this interesting symbol. I think that's the enter or something. But everything else looks pretty fine. Maybe we can use different one like Unix one dump. With Unix one, it seems to be converted into string. Interesting. So Excel tab. I think the CSV is fine. This one. So this guy right here. Don't worry about that extra character. Maybe we can just get rid of it. Well, not manually, but something to keep in mind. But anyhow, that's a quick look again at the text in and text out. Actually, the text in, the new text in can read data that's actually string value, not just float or integer. Keep that in mind. So it can be much more powerful. Of course, if you are like a data scientist or like a visualization artist, you probably will also want to learn JupyterLab. With a JupyterLab, you can use Python. I think you can also use different kernel. I don't have anything else. I think what's the famous one? R programming. I happen to learn a little bit of those, but Python is the one that I'm most comfortable with. Every now and then, I found this notebook type of format is kind of nice. It's open source. JupyterLab is open source, and you can easily hook up a lot of kernel, so that you can run different programming language, and they just happen to have this kind of really nice notebook format. I kind of wish we can have like a notebook format, and then I can write down all my spreadsheet experiment and with some notes, kind of example. And then what's nice about this guy right here is that we can at any time make changes into the code, and then we can, get something else, Oh, data is not defined. Okay, here maybe I need to source the data. Let's try this. I start from this one. I think they call it cell. So I run this guy right here, and then source the data, get the data. Name CSV is not defined. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't know where to get the data. Yeah, this thing, there's a things with the code, but like I said, with nodes it's a lot easier, and then I think often I take this for granted, and to be able to do this really quickly is really powerful, right? And oh, actually I forgot to do one more thing. To visualize this as something that you can render, you probably want to use like a circle and then use all the dots there, plug it into the matrix, go look at it from the top view, and you can see the data as dots. Let's look at it with orthographic, make the dots smaller, get rid of the points, so we have small dots nicely created there, and it's being instanced. We can change the dots with anything else, like Susan head or something. And if you're happy with this, so we can see we have 200 data from the CSV. And if you like this, you can use matrix apply. Just do it this way. If you want it, you want each circles to be a separate object. Oh, okay. I need to use this. Okay, gotcha. And bake it. Now we have real objects. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. You can give it color and anything, do whatever you like to it. Of course, yeah, like I said, with the nodes, it's much easier. Randomize. Yeah. So there you go. That's a quick look at JupyterLab, comparing it this kind of workflow using Python. Sometimes Python is cool as well. Coding is cool. Sometimes you do get something interesting like this. Name CSV is not defined. Maybe I need to import CSV somewhere that I forgot. Import CSV, that's why. And import numpy. Okay. Now I should go back to the cell. There you go. Now it's taking my data. I can look at my data, look at the header by its index, right? And then I can now should be able to visualize the data using matplotlib module. Name y is not defined. Okay, because I need to tell it here what's x, what's y, and what's z. And now I should be able to plot it. So we get this data. That's interesting. I'm missing something, I guess. X, Y, what's X? X is supposed to be data 0. Do it again. There you go. That's our plot. This is our plot in Blender. This is in Matplotlib, in JupyterLab. So yeah, there you go. That's a quick basic example on visualization techniques that you can do in Blender using SphereJock add-on if you want to visualize CSV. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Bye.